All right, so Mexico Beach is live right now, the city council meeting, and Mayor Miller has begun her mayor comments, and the three councilmen who have been on strike are back. They're back. So let's see what drama transpires now. Let's see what narrative is going to be put forward now. All right. I don't have time to catch you up, so hopefully you've been watching how the three councilmen have been trying to subvert the city charter in Mexico Beach and remove the authority to exercise the mayor's duties and responsibilities because they don't want the checkbooks and the credit card receipts to come out after the city received $100 million in FEMA money. So let's go right to it. Let's just go live and see what they're talking about. I believe these are the mayor's comments right now. Oh, boy. And right after that will be the citizen comments or the public comments. So let's see if we can get over there and watch. Here it is.
Learn from our mistakes and move forward. We must self-monitor our feelings when we come to this table to prevent it from clouding our good judgment. We have a job to do. We need to do our job.
To help us with our stormwater issues. And then lastly, is just a one-page document that I put together with some thoughts I have about making the city more sustainable, and I'll talk about those in more detail tonight. Because I just don't think I have enough time, so I can put time now. But and what I want to talk about tonight is our stormwater plan and what I think lack of a consolidated, complete plan for stormwater. And what you're going to see, I think, in this executive summary of the 2015 plan, Tommy and David Reisman, our engineer, is many of the recommendations aren't feasible or doable given our current financial status. Many of them are under or are involved now private property to deal with it. And we have neglected, I think, many of the recommendations that have been brought forward. And that's what I want to talk about tonight with some recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all your work too.
Good job.
Mayor, Council, Rock Crease, Colorado Drive. Just want to say thank you to the Special Events Committee and all the people, the businesses, the people who donated money, the fire department, the police department, the city, everybody who's involved with fireworks. I mean, that was great. It was, seems like every year it gets better and better. And they did a swell job, and I think they need to be recognized for what they did. There's a lot of people in the community who got involved in that, and we really appreciate it. Second thing, real quick, building around here. Is there a reason why the building department does not require a dumpster on houses that are being built? I mean, to me, that just seems like a ridiculous thing not to have. We have trash blowing all through the neighborhoods all the time, and I have come to see the garbage people picking up stuff as they're going around, the sanitation workers. To me, that just seems common sense to require, besides the bathroom and porta potty, a dumpster on new home construction or major renovations. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jody Moore, and I run a local Facebook page called The Beacon of Bay County, Florida. I've been watching this whole situation in Mexico Beach since Mayor Miller was elected. I want to preface what I'm going to say by letting you know I've never spoken to Mayor Miller. We've never met. Never spoken by phone, on Facebook, or message. But one reason I came is to offer my support to her. I'm just outraged by the way she's being talked to and the way she's being treated. Michelle Miller is not Aunt Kathy. She's got to run things differently. I agree she's not a queen or a dictator, and she shouldn't be. However, she is clearly the CFO of Mexico Beach, according to the charter. I don't even know why this is a question, because it isn't. She was elected because as a body, the people of Mexico Beach want transparency. They want to know where the money is going and where it's gone. And why do I care, and why am I here speaking today? I'm not from Mexico Beach. I was born and raised in Bay County. and I currently live just outside of Lynn Haven. Mexico Beach took $100 million in FEMA money. That's your money, that's my money. People in other states have helped pay for your rebuild. I have every right to come here and speak, even though I don't live in Mexico Beach. Anyone has the right to speak. And I'm outraged by the way this mayor is being treated. I'm outraged by some of the council walking out of meetings and refusing to show up. I know you said you had an excuse, but 3 people didn't show up at the last meeting. I've contacted Governor DeSantis about this and encouraged others to do so too. This council needs to follow the charter, which is your law. If the council refuses to follow that law, Mayor Miller, I urge you to pursue your legal options to clarify the issue once and for all. This has been going on for months. It's long enough. Mayor Miller, don't give up. I know there were citizens who opposed you, but you have more support than you know. For this council, you are public servants. You were elected to serve the people. The people clearly want accountability and transparency. You need to give that to them. Open the ledgers, get a forensic audit. The audit that has been delayed needs to move forward. Right now, what's happening is just chaos, and it is not serving the residents of Mexico Beach. As someone who doesn't live here, as someone who stands outside and looks in, I'm an outsider. I urge the mayor, this council, and this lawyer to stop the infighting. Look at the charter, follow the charter, serve the people. Thank you.
Way to go, Jody,
Any
huh?
other citizens' comments?
Beacon of Bay County. They didn't like that.
I'm Shelby Bush, and every morning I walk. I see you most mornings. We live in such a beautiful area, but there has been so much ugliness lately. I know, Adrian, we were concerned with Facebook before the election, family and friends. After the election, horrible. Made up Facebook accounts, nastiness. So I have a suggestion for all of you. The people that work on our sanitation crew are the kindest, hardest workers, team players that you can ever find. 4th of July, they're out there working. They have the best attitude. They get out of that truck, they help each other, they're kind to each other, they're kind to us as citizens. So I challenge each of you, walk a day in their shoes, and maybe you'll learn a little kindness. Thank you.
Let me speak. Just 1 minute. I'm Alex Hogan, I live on 7th Street. I want to carry on what Ms. Bush just said. She's absolutely correct. For weeks, we have been bickering about power, the authority, the mayor, the councilman. People, what makes this community great? Yes, this leadership here, or lack of, but the real people that make Mexico Beach beautiful are the Tommies, the Glens, the Sandys, the sanitation people. They're the ones that makes this community beautiful. So we should come together to make their job easier. They're great people. Let's support them instead of all this in-house. Thank you, Ms. Bush, for your comments. They were beautiful. Thank you for the lady from Lynn Haven. That was beautiful. Now we need to make you councilmen beautiful. Thank you.
Any other citizens' comments?
George Gill, 124th Street. This morning I planned on reading a prepared statement that would have been a direct rebuttal to the prepared statements read by Mr. Welly and former mayor a couple weeks ago. But honoring your opening remarks and statements, I'm going to put that off for another time. However, what I am going to do this morning is relate some factual information that directly impacts on all of the finger pointing, the saber rattling, the chest thumping that's been going on ad nauseum, relating to who, in fact, the city administrator of Mexico Beach considers his boss. On March 22nd of this year, soon after the hiring of Michael Manning as the assistant city administrator, myself and 3 other city residents met with Mr. Manning. Also in attendance that meeting was City Administrator Doug Baber. In the course of that hour-long meeting, Doug Baber stated to the group, quote, "You all have to understand, I work for the mayor," unquote. Minutes later, same meeting, he once again stated to the group, quote, "Remember, I take my orders from the mayor," unquote. He then turned to Mr. Manning, who was seated on his immediate right, and said, "Just as Michael takes his orders from me." Now, I don't understand what more concrete and conclusive evidence is required. You have Doug Baber, who's at the heart of the controversy, according to the language found in section 2.07 of the charter, clearly stating to his newly hired assistant and 4 citizens that I work for the mayor. I take my orders from the mayor. Now, certainly a man that makes 6 figures from the citizens' money, plus health benefits, plus retirement, plus a take-home vehicle, would know fact certain who his boss is. And I challenge any of us in any job or occupation to say at any one time in our work history, we didn't know who our boss was. Based on Doug Baber's own words, there should be no doubt. Under the current language in the city charter, this argument needs to go away until there's a citizen vote on revisions or amendments. Thank you.
Nailed that one. Spot on.
Good morning.
Oh, boy.
I'm glad to hear that we're wanting to shift directions, because I hope that means that we're going to be following who the city administrator reports to. That has been happening since there ever was a city administrator, which is the city council. Section 2.1 of the charter states, Susan Hodelman, 1008 15th Street, 15A, sorry. All power of the city shall be vested in the city council. Ordinance 46, revised ordinance 596, states that the city administrator is subject to control of the city council. That can't be changed, those ordinances, until you have 2 separate readings at 2 separate meetings and 2 separate votes. You have to do that to change it. The city website says the administrative responsibility of the city rests with the city administrator, who is appointed and works directly for the city council. Mr. Baber's contract stated that he reported directly to the city council, not the mayor, the city council, and he can only be fired by a majority vote of the city council. The Florida League of Cities, which is an organization that supports municipal cities, they have categorized Mexico Beach as a council weak mayor system. The mayor has little, if any, greater authority than the council members. A legal opinion from 2015 states the charter's definition of the powers of the mayor are unclear. However, that ordinances 486 and 596 that were previously mentioned are clear. A recent legal opinion from our city attorney states that Mexico Beach most closely resembles a council weak mayor system. That means then that the city administrator reports to the council, like it says in Doug's contract. So with all of this information, the charter language we know is still there. That's why it's for revision right now. So really, if truly you want to pass this, you'll wait. You'll wait for a charter revision, because if you don't, you are saying that your interpretation supersedes decades of precedents, ordinances, and votes by the people. And that cannot be. That is called dictatorship.
So I really hope that the words that you stated at the beginning of this meeting are truly what you mean, and that you will set this aside and let the Charter Review Committee do what they want to do. Let the people vote for it and move on. It's not a big deal to have a city administrator report to the council as a whole. That is what transparency is. Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you, sir.
That sounds like Adrian Welly and them wrote that. Did you notice she left out the second half of that sentence? Did you see that?
Sheila Gardner, 111 20th Street. I'm gonna keep it brief today. This is the first meeting since we had our city employee luncheon. I cannot thank our community that did it. If it wasn't for everybody in this town that contributed, whether you did a gift card, came to my house and sweated 10 gallons of sweat, because everybody that was at my house that day knows it was the hottest day of the year. But we all came together. The employees, every one of them that I've talked to said it's the best meal that they've ever had. So I hope that come this fall, we can do it for Christmas, Thanksgiving, something when it's a little bit cooler and we all won't pass out. I do hope the comments that started this meeting are how we continue. The only way this town is going to move forward is if we all do come together. We're either going to come together and stand, or we're going to stay where we are and we're going to fall. It's that simple. And it starts right here at this table. And I think the attacks that have happened have got to stop. They're coming from somewhere, and it's got to stop. I'll save everything else for town hall.
Bill McLaughlin, 406 5th Street. I've sat up there where you all are. I've also sat on P and Z. The past few weeks have bothered me because I've sat on a council where the councilman and the mayor went head to head. Sometimes the council won, sometimes the mayor won. And that mayor was a very strong individual. Mayors usually lead not because a charter says, but because of their personality and their leadership abilities. I've heard several sides of this as who's right on the charter. I've heard that our mayor is because she's elected as mayor. But what it comes down to is the charter itself, and I agree that it needs to be looked at to try and get the citizens. I'm going to look at it because I'm an individual also and what I think. Very shortly, under the charter, 2.1, general powers and duties. City will be governed by mayor, and council, not common council. Mayor hyphen council. For those that I had to look it up, so maybe some of you all missed it in English, hyphen puts a word together. It compounds like a pharmacist compounding medicine into one. It blends. So it says we're governed by this unusual hyphen, one body. Even further goes and says all powers shall be vested to city. And then further states that here on, it's just called council. In other words, that hyphen word. The other thing I noted, and after that I'll stop, and I'm not trying to be nasty to anyone, but at the end of 2.07, mayor, it states that, so I get it right, let me make it, I don't have it right, I'll read it here, but basically what it states is the powers or the chains are given to the mayor by the government, the state, and its ordinances, by the charter, and by the council. So if there's needs to change, not only can the state change by changing their laws, which would change powers depending on how it is of all of us. Certainly, if you change the charter, that changes their power, but also, so does the council, which is the blended council with the mayor. Several years later, 18 years ago, we created an administrator. It said it responds to the council. That's the mayor and the council. Will the city administrator look at the mayor and take their word as an order or as a demand or whatever? Surely, because it's the mayor. The mayor, by the virtue of the fact they're mayor, has power. Not given by a charter, but it also has to be accepted and it has to be respected that that person knows what they're doing. I ask that you guys do work together. For over 50 years, by the same charter, we've governed the city. And frankly, in the past 3 months, that governance hasn't been there. We need it to be governed. If we take it because people think they have the right to a specific power and have the state look at it, fine. If we take and have a forensic audit, so that the people can see whether there was problems or weren't. Personally, I, as sitting there, don't think they'll find much. Will they find some? Yeah, you can't do a forensic audit without finding something. My fear is not that something will be found. My fear is going to be that half the people that think there is a problem will continue thinking there's a problem. Please, let's govern.
Any further citizens' comments?
Carter Dorsch. On a much lighter note, I would just like to applaud Adrian Willey. I feel like there's been a lot of negative news, whether it be from Mr. Thompson or anybody else. And I feel like he's handled it in a very professional manner. And I mean, there's not any other city council member that I call, but he is always willing to answer anything that I'm confused about. And for that, I would just like to applaud him. Thank you, Adrian.
Any further citizens' comments? Okay, we'll close the citizens' comments. Move to the consent agenda. We have minutes, meeting minutes from June 20th, 27th, and June 29th. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes from?
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
I'll second the motion.
Any nays to, any changes noted? Any nays? And note that all dates on the agenda, 20th, 27th, 29th have been accepted. Now we move to our regular agenda. Employee of the month is up.
Good morning, Mayor. Good.
All right, I'm going to take a moment. All right, I'm going to take a moment to talk with you about what we just saw there, and then we'll get back to it and see if Adrian Willey can and the rest of the guys can actually stay there with Mayor Meany if they disagree or if they're going to walk out again, if they'll go on strike again. Do you see how and this is really common. I see this a lot, and it's understandable. You'll have orchestrated comments But one of the things that it has been consistent is Councilman Adrian Welly, who is sitting to the left, to her left, the younger councilman. They continue to leave out the second half of the sentence. They are insisting that all powers of the city shall be vested in the city council, but then they keep leaving out the second part of the sentence and the third part of the sentence. The second part is except as otherwise provided by law or this charter. And here's what's except for: that the mayor shall be the chief elected administrative and fiscal official for the city. Okay? That's the way it's always been. That's the way the charter sets it up. It's and it's important as well to understand that what the mayor, this particular lady, Michelle Miller, who was elected over incumbent Al Cathy, it's every 2 years they have elections. The people want to know and they want to see the names on the checks. Who got the checks? Who got money from the city credit card? And these guys don't want to do that. They don't want to show that. So look again at the last part of this. It says that the council shall provide for the exercise thereof this, that the mayor shall be the chief elected administrative and fiscal official of the city, and for the performance of all the duties and obligations imposed on the city by law, which is the charter. So what they're doing is they're violating this entire section. They're claiming all powers, but they are denying the entire second part of the paragraph. They have all legislative powers, but the administrative and fiscal responsibilities and obligations fall to the mayor. And they know this because that's the way they've always done things in Mexico Beach. I've shown it over and over. So they're trying to paint it out as a power grab, as tyranny, when in reality, it's not that at all. When in reality, it is the mayor has an obligation to perform the duties and responsibilities that are set out by law, by the charter, the constitution of the city. And by these guys pretending otherwise for the first time. Other people have tried it too, power grabs against the mayor's authority. But when more than $100 million have flowed through Mexico Beach in FEMA money, if any of that has been spent wrongly under Mario Gisbert and Al Cathy, when Mario Gisbert was the city administrator, not city manager, city administrator, who answers to the CFO. And then the CFO works with the board of directors, just like any organization. If there is anything there that the feds, as we've seen in Lynn Haven, might consider a crime, guess whose neck is on the chopping block? The person responsible for that, the mayor. Whether it's Al Cathy, which it is, or once she's there long enough, Michelle Miller. So they are painting it out as a power grab, but really they're the ones who are instituting this coup to try to protect the identities of the people and companies that received the money in the checks and in the credit cards and the contracts. The feds know this. They're looking at it. The sheriff's office knows all about it, but they're not public trust units. I don't even want to talk about that. Honestly, it's too upsetting to me. I was misled for a long time. But let's get back to the meeting. There's a presentation right now. Let me see your comments. And by the way, if you have comments or a disagreement with me about what this says, how it's laid out, how it's been done, I will answer them right now live. All right. You can challenge me. You can say, Bernie, you're not reading that correctly, or you've got your facts wrong. Challenge me. Let me answer them now. And we'll get back to this when it's when I think you'll be interested in it. They're trying to, let's see here. John says that's very clear. Miss Sarah Moon says public record. Yeah. Open the checkbook. It's public record. We want to see the receipts of the credit card. Where did the money go? What stores got it? What companies got it? Their body language when Jody and oh yeah, boy, especially the attorney sitting in the light blue shirt in the bottom left. Wait till you hear more about Clint McCahill, the city attorney. You'll find out more. Trying to hide stuff. That full sentence doesn't help them. No, it doesn't. Why would they leave out the except for part? I mean, I'll show you yet again. And Adrian Wiley is being extremely dishonest. Extremely dishonest. Here, let me fix this. And everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. What does, when we follow the money, where will it lead? And for what reason is Adrian Welly, the young councilman there, why is he leading this charge, this coup against the mayor's responsibilities and obligations? The entire section from 2.01 in the charter after the word accept is being omitted on purpose. And what do we know about omission? Purposeful omissions. Have you ever heard that somebody's lying by omission? That's what they're doing here. And the fact that they won't say the second half of that sentence, to me, is so obvious. It says it all. So, what are they hiding? Who up there has the most to hide? The answer is, I don't know yet. But clearly, they are unbelievably desperate. This is extreme desperation to walk out of meetings and to go on strike. I mean, nobody up there, well, no, Jody did with the Beacon of Bay County, really excoriated them or scrutinized them or criticized them for walking out of meetings. I mean, right after Councilman Welly, 3 days after Councilman Welly read this lengthy comment during councilman comments about his integrity and about how they need to listen to the people and how they need to work together. He walked out of a meeting when they didn't agree. That's unbelievable. And then wouldn't come back for the special meetings, only when it's the set meeting in the agenda. I mean, on the schedule. That's incredible. So as far as listening to the people, you got to hear this. There's a development, a housing development on about 10 acres in Mexico Beach. Half of it is on wetlands. Okay. So at the last meeting, at the last regularly scheduled meeting, a couple of weeks ago, 176 names on a petition. Remember, Mexico Beach has about 1,000 voters, about 700 of which voted in the last election in April when they elected Michelle Miller over Al Cathy, the incumbent. 176 people, plus the people who were in the room, even the people who can't stand me, every one of them said, please don't impact the wetlands, because the water needs to absorb in the wetlands and percolate in the soil for the magic of that ecology to happen. To divert that water, to dry up the wetlands in order to build 38 single-family homes on that 10 acres, 5 of which are wetlands. They weren't opposed to the development of more single-family homes. They were opposed to impacting the wetlands. And what was it, 3 days after Adrian Welly said, let's listen to the people, or actually it was on the very same day that Adrian Welly said, let's listen to the people, he voted against the people that said, please don't impact the wetlands. So this idea that they're listening to the people and that they're following how they customarily have run the city, and that they're following the charter, which is the constitution of the city, is obviously a lie. I've seen no, golly, I can't say that. I've seen a lot of dishonest people sitting on city councils, and so have you. But this one here is pretty brazen. This one here is pretty remarkable. Wouldn't you agree? Let me see your comments. So if you have a challenge for me, I want to answer it. Let's see. Probably some contracts companies already named before the indictments. Yeah, who knows if some of them are the ones who got a lot of that money. It's very obvious they're dead. Yeah, they're very desperate. That is for sure. Sounds like Walton County. Oh boy, yeah, I've heard about Walton County. The sheriff's on break. That's right. Very disturbing that they're upset that she's asking for the records. If nothing to hide, then why the pushback? We have a right to know exactly. And you still don't know. That's the craziest part of it all. Who's the guy I mentioned? I mentioned you at the meeting. I don't know who that dude is. Adrian Welly's buddy, evidently. Jody doesn't sugarcoat anything when the cameras are off and face-to-face with people. Yeah, she's remarkable. Neither does Gap Parker. The question should be, does Adrian have business that might be done, might have done contracts or got awarded money from Mexico Beach that he doesn't want to come to light? Yeah, I have discovered that Councilman Adrian Welly, if you want to see something interesting, and I don't know where this is going to lead, but I'll tell you this. If you want to know in Florida, if you want to search the records of nonprofits or of businesses, there is a state website in Florida. It's called sunbiz.org. It is the Department of State that keeps the records for businesses and corporations in Florida. So if you're sitting here and you've got a keyboard and you want to take a look at something, go to sunbiz.org, then click search records, then click name of officers of the companies, and then write in Welly, Adrian, W-E-L-L-E, Welly, Adrian, and see how many nonprofits and companies, how many pages of nonprofits and companies are owned by or are managed by as a director or some officer of these more than one page of nonprofits, homeowners associations, companies, disaster relief, also disaster relief focused. All I'm saying is it's unusual to see anybody with more than one page of businesses and nonprofits. But to see somebody on a council with that money, with that many, does require more research. So if you're interested in it, I could sure use help when it comes to the research end. Sunbiz.org. Then click search records. Then click name of officers. Not name of the company, name of officers. And then type in Welly, W-E-L-L-E, Adrian. And then after you get the couple of pages, find out what you can find out, because they could all be on the up and up. And he's just a damn good businessman. And that's very possible. But there are other possibilities that should be run down as well. Wouldn't you agree? All right. Let's see here. What's the law? Let's see. What's the law? I would only assume if we ask for these detailed books, they should have to supply it. How are they getting away with this? The law is you can look up the law on this by searching for Florida open government law, and it'll take you to the Attorney General's page. And Florida has broad, this is the way it was described to me, by the way, by an attorney over there, broad public record laws. I would say they're written in a way where the politicians can say Florida is the Sunshine State, open government, all that stuff. But there's no teeth to enforce the law. So when you make a public record request, they have all kinds of ways that they can put hurdles in front of you illegally. But the problem is nobody will enforce the law because they have to, within a reasonable time period, give you public records. Now, I have a public record request outstanding with FDLE, and it's been more than 5 months. Is that a reasonable amount of time? FDLE tells me that it's because they're shorthanded and they have a lot of public record requests and they go by the order of received. So essentially what they're saying is, imagine this. Imagine if you have a filing requirement for your business and you tell the government that you're working on it. You're doing the best you can, but you're short-staffed and you got a lot on your plate. So they're just going to have to wait. Do you think that'll fly? What ought to happen is the state legislature ought to give a deadline, a deadline certain in the law. It ought to say, just like it does for the people, you have a certain amount of time, 30 days. I don't know. I'm a reasonable guy. I'm willing to come up with a deadline. But there needs to be a deadline. The word reasonable is too elastic, and they make excuses for it. The other thing that they do to hide public records from you is they'll say that they need to spend a lot of time reviewing the public records, and then they'll charge you. Like Panama City Beach charges $58 for 30 digital pages of public records, even if the pages are blank. Did you hear that? That's their policy. And it's codified in a resolution, which is like the bylaws of a corporation, the charter and then the bylaws. The bylaws clarify how the charter is executed. Again, that's another point that these people try to obfuscate and confuse people about. So there are ways that cities and government agencies hide public records. And then they have the press on their side, the local press, because the local press are now public-private partners with local governments. They are no longer watchdogs because they get a boatload of money from governments and quasi-governments like the Tourist Development Council to advertise tourism. And these local agencies are local news outlets like WMBB, which is the worst, WJHG, which is pretty bad, and the News Herald. They don't want to lose the advertising dollars, so they don't report the news anymore. They are PR arms of these local governments, and they're paid to be so. They're on the take, which is one of the things that infuriates me the most, because that's my craft that has sold out. Journalism has sold out. It's really upsetting to me because this is important. Please remember I said this. Just remember this. This is a super important point. The extent to which you'll find corruption in government is the extent to which there's no reporting of it. In other words, when there was actual reporting, and there used to be, this kind of brazen law breaking did not occur. But when the news becomes the PR firm to counter the Beacon of Bay County, to counter me, well, then it causes confusion for people who are working, who are trying to take care of their obligations at home. They don't have time to run all this stuff down. You've got to sort of trust your institutions. But the problem is, in America, this is a big deal. Do you know that the Gallup poll, look this one up. The most recent 2022, the most recent Gallup poll every year, they get a pulse on the confidence Americans have in our public institutions. Okay, things like the military, things like education, things like the church, things like law enforcement. Do you know they rank like 20 different institutions or 15 different institutions? Do you know the two institutions that the American people have the least amount of confidence in? The lowest of all is Congress at about 7%. About 7% of the people have faith in Congress. Do you know what the next lowest is? Second to the bottom, TV news. Only Congress is less trusted than TV news. Now imagine if the whole, your entire currency is to be trusted, to give the information in a way that has context and history and both sides and all that. TV news has no confidence. So that means they no longer get money from subscribers like the News Herald. That's not how they get by. They get by from advertisers and grants from the government. They get grants from even the federal government. I don't remember how much it was, but it was something like $1 billion that the federal government gave news outlets for positive messaging to get the jab. So it's so bad. The incentives are so perverted, and they're all designed as propaganda to trick you. That is Minecraft that is sold out. These politicians wouldn't be able to do that without the support and the PR and the propaganda of former news outlets that are now just arms of propaganda. So people don't get the regular information that they need. And my goal is to provide this information to as many of you as possible in ways that you can challenge. But you know me, if I tell it to you, I show it to you. They don't. That's probably the most important way to recognize propaganda. There are two big ways. I've been thinking about this a lot. I think I'm going to write a column or an article about like the top 10 aspects of propaganda. How do you recognize it? I'll tell you the biggest way you recognize propaganda. There are a couple. Cancel culture is one. Censorship obviously is a big one. When you hear, as by the way, former President Obama just gave a speech at Stanford University. He is, for the last decade and a half, he's been pushing for curated information because of the dangers of misinformation. See? And so he says there's too much information on the internet now. And so he wants it curated, where misinformation and disinformation is kept from the people to keep the people safe. All right. So censorship is a big indicator of propaganda. But to me, the biggest one is this: when people refuse to be challenged or debated. I have invited Adrian Welly, the councilman, to come on the show, just like Bill Husfeld has. Look, a year and a half ago or so, Superintendent Bill Husfeld joined me on the show, and we debated the merits of the, I think it was a half-cent sales tax. I mean, you got to respect that. And I do. I treat anybody who comes on and does that with great respect. But when you get somebody who claims to have all the answers, like Adrian Welly and Vice Mayor Wolf and old Jerry Bad Liability Smith, when they refuse to have a discussion because they always have a reason, right? They always say things like this. Is always what they say. We're not going to give any air, any oxygen to the misinformation. We're not going to legitimize the misinformation. When you start hearing that kind of stuff, top indicator, number one indicator to me of propaganda. We won't debate somebody and then they'll attack your motives, who clearly is getting paid to do this, who clearly is just trying to stir up the pot or whatever it is, right? When you get people who will not debate because it's too dangerous or the other side is not legitimate, they are propagandists. I'm a big believer in having more ideas collide so that we can make sense of it however we want, not curated by anybody. More information, more collisions of ideas, not less. Anyone who's opposed to that is a propagandist or a cult member. Can I get an amen? But they will not debate me on this topic because they won't even read the second half of the damn sentence. That's the first thing they'd have to do is read the second half of this sentence right here. But Bernie, don't you understand the charter says that the city shall be governed by a mayor council form of government, and all powers of the city are vested in the city council? And then what am I going to say? Yeah, but read the rest of the sentence, man. I want to hear Adrian Welly read the rest of the sentence. Except as otherwise provided by law or charter. And this is what's otherwise provided. The mayor shall be the chief elected administrative and fiscal official for the city. Well, Bernie, that's not defined. That's not defined. Let me help you. Adrian, read this again. Does it say that the council shall be the chief elected administrative and fiscal officials for the city? No. Do you think that this can be interpreted to mean that the mayor that the council shall be the chief elected administrative official for the city? No. Of course not. And what does the legal opinion say about the distribution of powers among the elected officials themselves? It says that they're the legislative body, and the mayor has additional duties. That's why the mayor gets a higher salary than the other officials. They all know this. They all got a raise last year when Al Cathy said this very thing that I'm saying. Now, law enforcement authorities, could you please do your job? Well, Bernie, we're not allowed to actually do that. And by the way, if we do that, and we do find that there were crimes committed there, if there were, well, then it's going to implicate us. I think it might. You know, is it too much to ask? I mean, it is evidently. Is it too much to ask to have honest people in important positions? Is it too much to ask to have people who actually mean what they say when they give their oath of office? Is it too much to ask to have people in powerful positions who are willing to challenge the cartel? It evidently is. So far, I've blamed politicians. So far, I've blamed the media. Now it's time to blame ourselves, because it reminds me of that song. Who sings Margaritaville? Somebody tell me. I always forget names. I'm gonna look at names. Look at your comments. Help me out. Who sings Margaritaville? And I'll tell you my point. I'm watching for your comments. Help me out. I can't believe I can't remember his name. Jimmy Buffett. Thank you. Thank you. So it reminds me when we have to look at ourselves, right? It reminds me of the Jimmy Buffett song where he finally comes to the conclusion that maybe it's not her fault. Maybe it's my own damn fault. At some point, we need to realize it's our own damn fault because of the low voter turnout, because we can't trust the institutions to be honest and the people in power to be honest. We know we can't. The Gallup poll shows that we don't trust them. We don't have confidence in our institutions, and it's not for nothing. So therefore, we might have to watch a little less TV. We might have to do a little more digging and research. We might have to find somebody or people who are doing their best to get information to you, and then actually grab somebody and go vote. Actually get a sheriff that means it when he says he's going to clean up public corruption, rather than deflect and protect those who did it. Maybe we need to take people who are dishonest, like Adrian Welly and Jerry Smith and Richard Wolff, who are only reading one half of the sentence, and vote their asses out. They're all up for re-election next year. But at some point, it's our own damn fault. Am I right or wrong? Well, Bernie, I liked it better when you were blaming the politicians. I liked it better when you were blaming the press. But don't be pointing your finger at me, pal. I'm always going to call you Romy. Let me tell you a story about Anthony. Anthony, can I tell this? So I didn't know his name until not too long ago. When I did the radio show on Talk Radio 101 from 2007 to 2014, I would get a call. I'd get a call, and every time this particular caller would greet me on the air, he'd say, "Looky here, Bernie, it's Romy." I'll never forget it. And so I'll always call you that. Your sheriff sounds like, well, yeah, we have some problems with accountability, let's say, in government, because those who have the power to hold government accountable are not doing it. And the local media, they'd rather get advertising dollars than have a business model that thrives on telling the truth, because it's easier. I don't know how people look themselves in the mirror, honestly. I really don't know how people look themselves in the mirror. I mean, does their conscience never gnaw at them at night? You know, or they just go to bed and say, well, I'll just keep reading half the sentence and tricking as many people as possible. I guess so. I don't get it. All right, let's and I'm going to go back to the Mexico Beach meeting here in a second, but right now it looks like the fire chief is up there, and I just don't think it's something that you'd be interested in watching. But they're going to get around to this issue again about doing all they can to have the mayor perform the mayor's obligations and duties, so we can find out where the money went. They're going to bring that up here in a moment again. And I think what I'll do is just go back to it, and you can come and go rather than me drone on anymore. All right, so let's go back.
We have that 20%. So if we had a storm tomorrow, we would get 20% category and category B funds handed to us before we spend the penny. And then obviously in 2024, we will then have the assessments that will bring us up to, or the county up to the possible 20% plus the 60%, which should be 80%. And it would take a lot of the pressure off small municipalities like ourselves.
It looks like they're talking about a fire assessment, which is like a tax.
And Councilman Welling will remember that was one of our biggest worries. Could we actually afford all these payments before we get the money from FEMA? The idea here is the state gives it to us first. Although in this case it would go to the county will give it to us. But all we have to do is say, these are the numbers, they give us the money, It's not a case they're gonna hold on to it and give it to somebody else, they have to give it to us. So that's kind of where we're at. Does that
Open
make
public,
sense?
open public comment.
Sounds like a no-brainer. It kind of does, but, with all these changes and ways of doing things, obviously, it has to be discussed. Those of us who, I had a chiefs meeting on Friday with all the area chiefs, and it came up in that, Panama City and Panama City Beach are going to the loan, but they're big enough and have numerous employees to contract all of that. All the other smaller municipalities are doing it, and we're pretty much the last one that hasn't voted on it yet. I'm just the way things work. But it does make sense to me.
Oh, yeah, I mean, like I said, it seems like it sounded a no-brainer for the city to do that, especially after we went through the money.
But exactly, but I mean, and as we grow, if we ever want to come out and go it alone, we can do that. It just means we have to do our own separate assessments within.
See, this right here is where Mayor Miller should stop this crosstalk. You can only speak if you have the floor, and whoever's in the audience they're talking to does not have the floor. And you cannot allow that. You just cannot allow that to have an orderly meeting. I mean, public comments are next.
If the money came directly to us without including Bay County, but that's what we might aspire to in the future. But no, I mean, there's no real disadvantage to it in any manner or form. Everyone's going to start using the same form. So if you've ever done this before, the form's going to be exactly the same. Your form is the same as my form, is the same as Lisa's form. When we fill those out, they're all the same. So one training, one person can read it, one person can correlate them. So no, I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
I have a question. What is the advantage? I know there's the one advantage if we go with the county versus the Florida recovery system. Is there any other advantages or disadvantages between these two? Other than county, we would get the 20%, it would be immediate.
Well, I mean, we could get 20% immediate ourselves. We went in ourselves by just signing up. You get that physically signing up. So today, if we tick that box and say Mexico Beach should join, whether they join on their own or join with the county, that 20% happens. Because it's just been rolled out this year. The big thing will be next year when we get the chance to get up to the extra 60%. And the issue with the extra 60% is it requires a significant amount of paperwork, a significant amount of assessments. People come here, they assess this, they assess your responses, your category A and B collectors and what they're up to and so on and so forth, which requires a huge amount of paperwork and a huge amount of manpower. We just don't have right now. So, that's why we're saying go with the county at the moment, with the idea of once it's a little bit more clarified, exactly what we're looking for. If we want to go our own way, we can go our own way.
Okay. So any other discussion on public? Okay. We'll close public discussion and we'll start at the table. We'll go.
Sounds like a good plan to me.
Any questions for Sandy?
If you could, I'm good. County. I think I have three. Free.
So it's not an assessment. It looks like they're changing. Here, let's listen in.
Working obviously alongside with the Florida Emergency Management, therefore they will be changed. They would need to change themselves with these new forms of 214s and so on and so forth. That we would use, we continue to use. But the great thing about their 214s is the fact that there's drop downs. It's all there. It's all in the computer. You can do it on site. Off-site, everything works. It's just before it was pieces of paper. I can't read your writing, I can't read his writing. I've got to go back and ask, what did you write? What does this say? Whereas all of this is going to be done on the computer from now on.
And then it's Cat A and Cat B. How much money in Cat A and Cat B did we have? And have we gotten it all, or are we still waiting?
Honest answer, I can't. I know we haven't finished yet. I know we still haven't finished paying Credit Gulf, and they were one of the biggest movers in our Cat A and Cat B, I believe.
Well, I'm going to guess 40 to 50 million.
But it was a huge amount of money. But no, I did not do that bit of research before. I'm sorry.
But this will just speed it up, so I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I totally agree with some of the comments from the citizens. No brainer, sign up, get your 20%. I'm more curious is how do we get to 80? And now we delve into that, do we hire an independent to do
Well,
that for us?
I mean, we-
Grant, what do we do?
Yeah, we can still get to 80 with the, with the county too, right? Because they will do all of the assessments. We will be part of that assessment. They just ask us for certain pieces of information. We'll pass that to them, right? But, and we have to agree that we'll use their forms and so on and so forth. It's much easier for us as a conglomerate as such to be able to do that. Otherwise, we have to literally sit down with our consultants and everybody else and put together a large presentation. It's just at the moment, we don't have the manpower. I don't believe.
Well,
And get the full 80%, whereas we can get the full 80% if we go to county at the moment.
I agree with the 20%, just wanna see how we get to the 80.
Yeah, I was curious with that too, as to, looking at the big difference between the Florida and recovery, basically you're saying our differences in going to Florida versus the county is really the paperwork and manpower it would take to do that.
What they're trying to do is they're basically trying to standardize everything.
Standard is.
The idea is that if we go in there with the same form, everybody in Bay County fills out the same 214, that FEMA will then accept that 214 as basically being correct and done properly once it's signed off by those in Florida. The guys in Florida Emergency Management, having trained us to do it properly, are prepared to give us the money up front because we are going to be handing them something that is already correct.
Any other discussion at the table? Okay. Do I have a motion to accept the Florida the recovery obligation calculations through the county versus going through the Florida system?
No, we're going through, basically going with the county rather than going to below as a city of Mexico Beach.
I would make a motion to join FROC in conjunction with Bay County.
Very good.
I second.
Very good. Tammy?
Mr. Wolf,
Yes.
Mr. Welly,
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mayor Miller.
Yes. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Great presentation.
I think so, too.
Next on the agenda is the city administrator search. Mr. Smith.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. We, in desire need of a city administrator, and we started with this, trying to get one, and, we got our literature and our, everything in our packet with us today, and I hope we can move right along with it, and I propose we accept it on the time view and the website, and we advertise, what we got, and then the job description revised on June 2023.
Okay,
Move along just quickly as we can.
okay, so I'm open to public discussion.
Rock Creek, Colorado Drive. I got a question to ask this whole council. Doug, 5 months ago, brought Michael up here as an assistant. Michael's been here 5 months, so he pretty much knows what's been going on in the city, what's been happening and everything else with it. You guys made him your, I guess, part-time, however you're call it right now. Is there a reason why you just have not offered Michael a year position to evaluate and say, hey, we can give you a contract for 1 year, city administrator, and see how it works out? I mean, when I look at the grand scheme of things, if I was anywhere outside of this county and I watched the last 2 months of meetings, you ain't gonna find anybody with an IQ of 10 that wants to come here right now. I'm telling you that right now. You have somebody who already knows what's going on. See what I just said? I'm serious. People who do not live here watch that, and who's gonna wanna come here and take that chance? You have somebody sitting here right now who, I mean, I was out here looking at Michael. I think he's done a good job. Doug's gone, he's been around them. Why don't you do that and not worry about this right now and go for a year and see what happens? That just makes sense to me. Thank you.
And I think I can speak to that, and if Mr. McKay-Gill will correct me if I'm wrong, we have to put this out for RFQ.
Well, this job description that you're putting out isn't really an RFQ. You're soliciting for an employee.
Okay. All right, any other public discussion? Close the public discussion, move to the table. We'll start. with
Well, I think we should search for other people because there's several avenues that we can go and we don't really know who's available until we put it out there. I'd like to continue to search.
We don't know if he wants a job yet. He's got to put in for the job. I mean, I agree with Rock, but Tony, but he's got to want the job. He has to put it out. He has to put an application for the job before we agree to take it. So it's not really on us, it's on my. I mean, if there's some time I want to make a motion to move on and everything. Now.
We got to go to the table, we got to discuss this. Adrian?
I want to echo the same as Rock, and I think this is a good trial for us with Michael, but I think it's also a trial for Michael with us.
I agree.
So I think we need to stand by and definitely know he's eligible to apply, and I think if he does apply, that's when that decision can come down and we can have that discussion. And I do think it's a viable option, but he might be scared of us too. So.
Yeah, I'll bring that. Michael's done a good job. I asked him about that personally, just talked to him personally, and that's something that I'm sure that he would consider, and turn in an application like anybody else.
I think we need to take applications, do our due diligence, open it up. Also would like to give my opinion that we need to stick with our job description as it was in 2018. It's been used by several times, putting it out there for the job description. Nothing's changed in our job description. The posting is, has been used out there several times for this same position. So I would move that we use the May the revised version of May of 2018, as well as for the job description, as well as the posting advertisement, and put it out to those entities that we've discussed already.
You ready to go?
Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we move forward with the city manager job description revised of June 23. And that we also have the job advertising of July.
In other words, they are adding a provision that the city administrator would report to the council, turning the council into a CFO by committee. That's the move that they're making now.
Job description revised June of 2023, and the job advertising revised July 5th, 23.
I second. Again.
Kenny?
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton,
No.
Mayor Miller,
No.
Mr. Welly,
Yes.
Mr. Wolf.
Yes.
Okay. Move that.
So they just passed, the council just passed they just moved to hire a city administrator and have the city administrator accountable to the council like a CFO by committee. They just changed everything, which is contradictory to the charter. This should be challenged in court.
On our charter and our form of government and role of the mayor. According to the AG's office, boards and commissions, questions relating to the powers and duties of officials who sit on a public board or commission shall be requested by a majority of the members of that board and not merely by a dissenting member or faction. A request from the board should therefore clearly indicate the opinion is being sought by a majority of its members. An opinion request on behalf of a board or commission should be accompanied by resolution minutes and transcript reflecting the vote. And if the board or commission is represented by council, the board or commission must obtain a written opinion of council and include that opinion with the request. That's what I read. That's why I put it on the agenda. Yesterday, I find when opinions will not be issued, local codes, ordinances, or charters, opinions generally are not issued on questions regarding to an interpretation only on local codes, ordinances, or charters rather than the provisions of state law. Instead, such requests will be referred to the attorney for the local government in question. We've already done that. We have that. I don't see the need to move forward with this.
So we're, got a motion to table this?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Second.
All right, okay, call the roll.
Mayor Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton,
Yes.
Mr. Welly.
Yes.
Mr. Wolf.
Yes.
Very good. Okay, thank you. So, we're moving to staff reports. City Administrator.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I have a note from Mr. Troy Hutchinson.
So it looks to me like what just happened is they have tabled the debate about the mayor's authority per the charter. So really the three councilmen have really pulled a fast one here. It seems to me. At my first glance, I'll have to analyze it more and make sure I understand what they just did. But it appears to me that now they will send out a job description so they can get applications to for the city administrator job after Doug Baber gave his surprise resignation about 3 weeks ago. All right, so they're going to add for the first time a brand new provision in the city administrator's job description that he answers to the whole council rather than to the mayor. That's brand new and is contradictory to the charter. Secondly, they, I think, just agreed to table the debate about the mayor's authority. I think that's what just happened. I'll have to find out. But if that's the case, they have thrown a 50-yard pass and completed it toward their touchdown, which is a coup to subvert the charter and remove the mayor's authority. And if that happens, if it happens that they're going to move ahead and govern the city in a way where they are all like 5 CFOs, right? Where they all have administrative and fiscal authority rather than a division of authority, then she's in big trouble, actually. That's a dangerous place to be. Just ask Margo Anderson, another female mayor who came in a very similar way, who was voted to be the mayor, I believe, in 2015 of Lynn Haven. And 80 or 90% of the city officials did not want her there because she was kind of doing the same thing. And look what happened to her. They threw her under the bus successfully with a coup that involved the sheriff's office and the feds. You say, Bernie, that's quite a claim. Well, it's also quite a claim, is it not, that when she was indicted on 64 counts of public corruption in August of 2020, and a couple of years later, or 3 years later, all 64 counts were dropped. And all she had to do was say she met somebody 2 months different, and everything would be dropped. That's what's amazing. I mean, that supports what the incredible assertion that I just made. Yeah, this is I think next year voters need to deal with these 3 councilmen that have been on strike and just completed a 50-yard pass toward their touchdown. It's and there's, I don't know if there's a whole lot, I don't know, I'll have to think about this, that Mayor Miller could have done about it. But I still would say that she needs to assert her authority and have the council just stop her. Just somehow just stop her. And then a judge would have to decide, a court would have to decide. But the Attorney General's office, They don't have any governing authority over this. They can give an advisory opinion, but evidently they don't give advisory opinions on interpretations of charter. That would be up to a court if there was a like a temporary injunction placed upon the 3 striking councilmen. All right, I'll keep analyzing it, and but yeah, the 3 councilmen had a very successful meeting today. Let's put it that way. All right, I'm gonna cut out of here, and I will I'll be back with more for you soon enough. By the way, if you want to support my efforts and if you want to make a statement, this would be a great way to do it, and I would be most appreciative. I've tried to make this so easy for you. BernieStore.etsy.com. BernieStore.etsy.com. Get your forensic audit hat, Mexico Beach. Super easy to do, and you'd make me very happy. Also, I want to thank. I ought to do this. Let's do this. I want to thank the sponsors that support my efforts and allow me to do the best I can to bring you this stuff.
Have you received a speeding ticket for which you want no points placed onto your driving record? I'm El Saulene, 850-215-0628. Let me help you.
Don't let back pain and neck pain get you down. Find relief at Brown Chiropractic Center on St. Andrews Boulevard in Panama City. Dr. Sherry Brown helps people heal naturally with chiropractic adjustments and deep tissue massage. Call 769-3777. Okay, thanks for joining me, and I will see you soon.